Ah,
Hey, Donna, how are you?
I'm good, Josh. Thanks for having me
Of
today.
course, it's so good to see you. And as you know, we're putting all these thoughts together because all these different moving parts of an industry and the world going forward, we got to learn. We got to learn together. We got to learn more. And I think for all of us, one of the biggest challenges that we're coming up against is exhibitor value and engagement. It's this whole new world where people are trying to figure out how do these two worlds collide, and we are in the dead center of it, and you're in the dead center of it. And so we want to talk exhibitor engagement. We want to dive into this a little bit and see if we can learn more and more about it. So introduce us, tell us a little bit about you, and then let's talk about engagement, and what it looks like in the future.
Okay, good. Exhibitor engagement is kind of my favorite topic. So my background, I've been in the trade show industry since the mid 80s. I hate to date myself, but it's true. I started as a show organizer myself, uh, moved to publishing for a trade show. I was the founder of Expo Magazine, did that for about 20 years. Then I actually got into virtual events in probably around 2012, 2013, way back when they were first starting. Helped PCMA develop their first digital event strategist certification program. And now I've landed here. I am the vice president of sales and marketing for Send Media. We're a convention publishing and sales organization. So exhibitor engagement matters a lot to me because we sell a lot of booth space. And so last year in 2020, during the craze of it all, we were selling a lot of booth space, and that's great, but I also have to resell that booth space this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to me that exhibitors are satisfied with what's happening for them virtually, because I'm the one who has to go resell that virtual
Yeah.
booth. So I need to make sure that exhibitors are getting the best that they can get from these virtual events. And I don't think it's really happening right now. I think that there are a lot of missing pieces. Understandably, last year was an emergency situation. We all had to just jump in and do the best we could. But now I think we have the benefit of time. We can take the time and learn to build things that will help exhibitors engage more. I think we've all found that virtual events work great for delivering education.
Mm.
I think that even the networking between attendees is pretty decent, with the roundtables and networking events and evening entertainment and things like that. I think even those have worked well. But I think the piece we're all still missing is the exhibitor engagement.
Yep. So let's talk about that. Let's talk through what have we heard that wasn't great? What are some of the challenges that people had? And then let's kind of look through what's been good, and then what some work forward looks like. So what's been some of the challenges?
Okay, so last year we helped seven large medical associations convert to their physical event to digital.
Mm.
So we took the seven exhibitor surveys from that, and then I broke down the respondents and had small group interviews with about five different groups. And that there were five different groups that I met with to talk about what's wrong with virtual events. And then I did another five groups to talk about what they hope to see from hybrid events. So got a lot of responses there. So I'll kind of go through what we heard from that. You do have to keep in mind these were medical events.
Hmm.
So if someone's watching this that does not have a medical event, it may not all apply. But let me tell you some of what we learned. So the biggest thing was, the exhibitors need organizations to do more to drive traffic to them. Um, you know, getting attendees on the show floor at a medical event is hard even in the physical space.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are 400 education programs that they're there to see. So it's difficult even physically, but virtually, even more so.
Mm.
They did not have traffic. I mean, I talked to one exhibitor. This was actually, she was talking about not one of our events. I preface that, because it would never happen at
Sure.
one
Of
of our
course
events.
not. Of course not.
She had, a booth. She staffed with 8 people, 8 hours a day for 4 days.
Mm,
And she said they had one person click into their booth.
wow.
Imagine how upper management at an exhibitor feels about that. One lead from 8 people, 8 hours a day times 4 days. I
Wow.
mean, and that's what a lot of them were saying to various extents was happening to them. They're just not getting the traffic that they need. One of the other complaints was about letting attendees opt out of outreach
Yep.
from the exhibitor. Understandable. I'm not saying I have the solution. I understand from an association perspective, you can't let 300 exhibitors send emails out to all
Sure.
your members. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But, limiting them to, letting these companies, letting these organizations opt out, letting a person opt out of being contacted at all, I mean, where is the value for that exhibitor?
Mm,
If he can't reach out to these people, and then they also complained about limiting the outreach, based on what level of support
right.
they were allowed maybe 5 outreaches
Yep.
or 3 outreaches a day. That doesn't happen in a physical setting. When they're in the booth, they're not only allowed to talk to three
Sure.
people going
Sure.
by, they're allowed to talk to everyone. So again, I'm not necessarily saying I have the solution, but that's an issue that we need to be thinking about.
Yep. Yep. So
Um,
in the interest of time, just because we don't have that much time to go through, let's kind of rapid fire some of these, lack of time
okay.
in training, missing information, so onboarding, limited content in the booth, do more to drive traffic. So some of
Yep.
the things that we've been talking about too is, you know, in order to drive traffic, in order to drive conversions, there's got to be more than just hoping somebody comes on. We've got to get to the human side of it, right? So gamification, teams, these are some of the things we're working on is like when you join the platform and you are now on a team. And if you execute these things, your team can get rewards and unlockables. I think we've got to gamify the drive there. We've got to incentivize it in a way that says, man, if I do these things, I can get rewarded and not just hope. What we found out was this: we hope you come, doesn't work. Hope never works. And so I think
Yeah.
when we look at the future, we've got to start to look more strategically at the human carrots, the human motivators that get us through there. Okay, so let's talk a little about what does work. What have you found
Okay.
in the interest of time? We'll have to hustle through these, but what are some of the things you saw work?
So, one of the questions that I would have people ask themselves is, and you and I have talked about this, do we need a virtual exhibit hall? Why, are we just transferring what works physically to our new environment? Is that the best way? What if we built engagement packages instead? What if instead of buying a virtual booth, I, as an exhibitor, got 10 one-on-one appointments, 2 roundtable discussions, a place on the program? Why don't we think about some things like that?
Yep.
Why don't we think about year-round engagement? Why is this a 3-day thing? This has been an issue that this industry has had for 100 years.
Yep.
You work really hard to gather all this education and you use it for 3 days. We have the perfect environment now to record that and reuse it in 6 months. Take one of your tracks, education tracks, and build an event just for that track with
Exactly.
the same exhibitors 3 months later. And
Yep.
3 months after that, build another track. So some things that I've seen work well is getting exhibitors on the program.
Yep.
Now, yes, you cannot have all 300 of your exhibitors be speakers. However, you can take whatever they're doing in their booth, a roundtable, and put it on the official schedule.
Hmm.
That way, when I, as an attendee, am looking through the schedule, I can see that demo or that
Yeah.
key opinion leader or something like that. I can click on that and go to their booth to listen.
Yep.
So getting them on the schedule. What about badging attendees based on their demographics, their company size, their budget? Right now, what I'm seeing on most platforms is a list of attendees. But what if there were icons next to them that would help me as an exhibitor know who I want to engage in with?
Absolutely.
Another great idea, I have not seen this, but I've heard it done, perhaps you do it on your platform, is at the end of a session, let's say a session is sponsored. At the end of that session, all the attendees are dropped into the exhibitor's booth. Kind of exit through the gift shop kind of idea.
Yeah.
What a great idea. I think it's brilliant. I think opening the platforms a week early, letting exhibitors get in and start their outreach, you know.
That's one of the things we talked about too, like gamifying the experience before the experience. Like, hey, you've been put on a team, and even if you're going physical or remote, it doesn't matter. But for the next week, you get to go in and explore some of our booths, explore some free, and put content in a booth, you know, in a suite, in an experience. And so you're absolutely like putting things in the run of show. Like that's the whole idea. And to the other point that you're making, why do we just do something over 2 or 3 days? Like people want to network all the time. People want to learn all the time. It's not like, it's like, oh, you know what? I only want to network for 3 days a year. I only want to learn something for 5 days a year. No, it's, I want to do this all the time. We have the tools to do it. Let's utilize them.
And we all know that no matter how hard we work on content and everything else, the majority of your attendees will say that their best learning comes from each other. Talking at a reception, getting ideas from one another. I mean, that's what we need. We need that networking, that connection, as you say, all year round, not just 3 days a year.
Think about this. Like, why can't you take a sponsor that is trying to sell a subject? Why can't they host the roundtable throughout the year? Hey, this roundtable is brought to you by this group. Everybody gets to come on, and it's that exhibitor now has that, hey, my name's Josh, I'm with MedTech, whatever. We're excited about this, and we're hosting this thing, blah, 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 blah. And it's now you've extended time, and people that want to discuss that topic can jump on. So I think there's, it'll be interesting to see if people really stretch into, wait a minute, we don't have to bet the farm on a couple of days. And it'll be curious to see how many people really have the extra income and time to go fly across the country as things are expensive and life's different. And it'll just be interesting to see. I mean, you're going to have to make those changes. All right, on that note, what's the encouragement that you'd give meetings, associations, events as they're going into this new era? Here's the encouragement. Here's the challenge you're going to give them.
Before we do that, let me say one more thing about what you were saying a minute ago. You know, we've always been like 50% or less of an association's attendees have ever attended their event. Ever. I mean, that's just the norm. So, you know, we've never before had the ability to get the other 50% connected via virtual. So hybrid makes the perfect sense for our future to get the rest of those attendees connecting. So I think that's something important to mention. Okay, so for the encouragement, you know, I would challenge everyone to start thinking about their events differently. I think that exhibitor engagement has to become a key part of your strategic planning. You know, it's not just going to happen. It is not just going to happen if you don't make it happen. But the beauty is this is not an emergency relief anymore. You know, virtual events are not an emergency relief. They're an opportunity for greatness now.
Absolutely.
They're an opportunity for you to put your event way above your competitor's event. If you can have a really good hybrid event and connect those two audiences and get that engagement going, those exhibitors are yours for life. Now, I will say we all know exhibitors share in the responsibility for engagement. They don't show up at training, you know, I mean, we all know that. They're the same in physical events. They do the same. But I think the onus is now on us to set the stage, provide the tools, and easy instructions for them to do all that. And I think that you should work with your exhibitors, experiment with them. No one has really cracked the code here. You know, everybody's still learning. So get with your exhibitors and try some things. Why not? Make them a part of the solution. And the last thing I'll say is I do think that you need to put yourself in their shoes. They, just like you are now planning 2 events, they're now planning 2 booths, but not just at your event. They're planning 2 booths at every show they go to. And each one of them is on a different platform.
Yep.
So they're having to learn a lot, and I think that we need to be cognizant of that and make things as easy as possible for them.
Could not agree more. And we're all learning, experiment. So here's some of my takeaways from this. If you are thinking about how do I get exhibitors more value, first of all, use human motivators to drive traffic. So that's always going to work no matter all software or physical. Human motivators move people somewhere. Some of the best of physical events I've seen is where they're doing the free booze. You know, why is that at the exhibitor? Because, oh my gosh, I want to go get a drink. And so it's a human motivator. So we got to think human motivators. Think expand, not smaller, with time and opportunity. Hey, exhibitor, I'm not going to just sell you a 3-day experience. I'm gonna give you 9 touch points throughout the year, and we're gonna help get people around. So how do we don't fear that something's got to happen in 3 days? How do we use 365 days to provide value? And I see most often that people that show up, it's usually around 20 to 25% of member base shows up to a physical event. So maybe it's 50%, but I think it's a little bit lower, but it's somewhere in there. There's so much opportunity for us to use digital tools to go reach and provide more value. So think exhibitors, human motivators, 365, experiment, try things, and help them execute. So I think it's great advice. And I think the world is in the future. It's not in the past. So it's exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And if we want these exhibitors to come back year after year, we got to learn to make it work for them.
Absolutely.
It's got to, and I think it can happen. I think it can happen with some strategic planning.
I do too. Donna, this has been so great. Thank you for spending time and talking with me and just ideating. We know that the future is in front and we're going to be in it together. And so we're excited about that.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. It's a great time to be in the industry.
It is. Thank you, Donna, so much.
Sure. Great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.